everybody. On today's video, we're going to discuss the all-new V1 to 4 gear adapter kit. So this has been a super popular kit right off the get-go. It allows you to adapt your favorite 4 gear drag body. So I mean, I guess you could put other non-drag bodies on there, but this one was basically for the drag stuff so that you can throw that 4 gear away and put a modern inline under it. So we have the VSpec here. This one already has been outfitted with the kit, which includes a adapter clip for the body, a front axle extender, and larger front tires. And then it also comes with some pre-bent pickup shoes, which that's one of the main things I want to cover in this video is the pickup shoes. We do have another reminder on our packaging that they are pre-bent, but it is up to you, the user, to make sure that on your car, they're not going to hit your front axle. So, and one way to do that is to just set it on your track and make sure that there's clearance up there for the front axle, because if the pickup shoes do touch the front axle, it definitely is a short. So it's not good. We don't want that to happen to people. But the nature of the wheelbase on these cars, the top of the pickup shoe is right under the axle, so we bend it back so that when it travels up, it won't touch it. But just make sure that you know, one of the things to talk about too is if you run too small of a front tire, the lower the front of the car is, the more compressed the pickup shoe is. So just keep that in mind. If you are converting a existing Viper chassis like the VSpec, you absolutely want to run the bigger front tires. And we just want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with what you're doing and understand why we put bigger tires on there. They fill out the wheel well better. So you can run Pro Tracks on there, the billet ones, or anything like that. So we'll just go ahead and jump into what's included in the kit. So we have a kit right here, and we have these components. So we have the clip, which should only go on one way. If it goes on backwards, I believe that it hits the tires, and you should know pretty quick that it doesn't go that way. But that's pretty self-explanatory. Anybody watching this video has probably put a body clip on before. Comes with the larger front tires. So these are a 405 Razor front tire. It's pretty big. It doesn't work in the shorter wheelbase configurations. So just keep that in mind. One thing to mention really quick is if you do want to install this in short wheelbase and still run your AFX clip, you could still do that. You do want to run the smaller front tires though, because these tires in that short wheelbase axle hole, because the axle hole is moved down, you want to go back to your standard tire sizes. So just keep that in mind, that once you glue the extender into the chassis, it's not over. It's not just a 4 gear chassis. You can still use it in the short wheelbase. You wouldn't be able to use it in the long wheelbase with one of our Formula One bodies though, so that is something to take into consideration. Most guys just have multiple cars. I know there's a lot of people out there that are gonna say, well, I can't afford to have multiple cars. It's totally fine, you don't have to. But if you are wanting to replace your 4 gear, I personally would just replace it, and I would just keep this body on it, and this car would be dedicated to this body. But to jump back into the kit here, we have the front axle extender, okay? And this can only be installed, I guess you could install it 2 different ways, but it has 2 locating posts that will locate on the holes in the chassis. And what you want to do is you want to put a little bit of glue on those and then pop them into place. And you can see how they're in place here. There is a small tunnel under there that will allow you to still install and remove the guide pin. But that's basically all that you have to do outside of just snapping and popping stuff into place. If you just pop that into place and didn't glue it, it won't stay there. As soon as the front axle goes in and there's tension on it, it'll pop it up. So you do need to glue that. and just make sure that you get that glued into place. On the pickup shoes, it comes with pre-bent pickup shoes, so you can see the top of this is bent back. When you install these, you really want to get them dropped in up front first, and then you will push back and click it down in there. So, and then to remove them, you know, or sorry, to go back to when they're installed, you might, once installed, you might have to bend this back further to make sure that it clears the axle. If you do have to bend them back further, it might make it kind of tricky to get them off, because you're not going to be able to have a lot of space there to pull the shoe forward. You definitely do want to pull their axle out of it to remove them. But usually what I will do, if I can grab a tool real quick out of my drawer here, is I'll take something, this is just a pinion tool, but it'll also work for this application. And you can actually push it down in the hanger. This car doesn't have hangers on it, but you can push it down in there and pull it, and it'll pop it loose. So just kind of a tip there to make it easier. I probably, once installed, I wouldn't remove those shoes until it was time to replace them. So just keep that in mind. You know, like, there's really no reason to continuously put the shoe on, take it off. Like, I'm really sensitive to bending and tweaking and handling the shoes. And if they're putting it on a drag car, you really should never have a problem with the shoes getting knocked off, or any of that kind of stuff that you have on a track, especially on a uneven track like a Tommy track. But that's pretty much it for the kit. These front tires, for installing them, I like to use some small pliers. You can use some small needle nose, and you'll put them on about 1/8 inch or so, and then you can just spread that open and kind of pop your wheel in there. It's not super hard to do. Let's see if I can do it on this one. And then you just pull the pliers out, and then you just want to make sure that you kind of massage that tire in there so that it's not going to spin oblong, because if you put it on and it spins oblong, the car's not going to run very well. So that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, at that point, you can enjoy your favorite 4-gear body on the Viper platform. So this happens to be a VSpec. It's the Viper platform, so it doesn't really matter which Viper car it is. It's really just the chassis. But this car could now run, if we wanted to run it top fuel hard body, absolutely could. Just for a comparison in like speed and ET, mostly ET, going from a 4-gear, which runs between 1.0 to 1.25 seconds at around 30 miles an hour, going from that just to a VSpec, you're gonna be dropping like almost half a second off that thing. So it's quite a bit. I mean, I guess they're gonna run like around 0.7 second and a ton more mile an hour. You could put it on a modified, a bracket master, anything like that, and run it even lower. So if you do have a cool looking 4-gear body that you know, don't really like working on the 4-gear, or you feel like, hey, I can't really upgrade this thing that much, the Viper platform definitely gives you that option. Now, this will only work on the V1 chassis. You might be able to modify and adapt it to a BSRT chassis. I'm not 100% sure on that. Usually we make our stuff as universal as possible, but because of the characteristics here, it is kind of stuck just on the V1, which, I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I know there's guys out there that do have the G3, so it might work on that. You might have to knock those off and glue it somewhere else, you know, on the chassis. It's not going to locate in the correct location. And then the other aftermarket inlines, I don't think that it would work on those, but at least you have a good option with the V1. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you have questions or whatnot, feel free to leave them in the comments, or you can send us a direct message at support@viperscalracing.com, and we'd love to get feedback from you. And just to kind of go back over really quick, the things that we wanted to stress in this is just making sure that your pickup shoes are clearing the axle. for normal operation. Now, if you fully compress the shoes, like bottom them out in the chassis, it's tough to get the shoes away from the front axle. You can put heat shrink tube over the front axle. That's an option, but the bigger you make that diameter, the more interference you're going to get with your pickup shoes. So just keep that in mind. Just like any other hobby, if you know, or any other aspect of these, if you put it together and the motor's tight and you don't do anything to mitigate that problem, you're going to have a big problem. Okay. And just like gear mesh is too tight, axle's too tight, bushing's too small, tire, like the list goes on and on. So this is just another thing to think of and to be aware of. And to me, I'm okay with it because it's the trade-off of upgrading to a high performance chassis under the cool 4-gear body. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. See you on the next one.